January 10th edition of CNN 10. My name is Carl Azus. We're explaining news happening around the world, starting with the evacuations of thousands of people in Southern California. Huge parts of this region have been scorched by wildfires over the past year and a half. And that's partly responsible for the latest disaster people there are facing, mudslides. Heavy rains have been falling in places like Ventura and Santa Barbara counties. And because the fires burned away so much vegetation in the area, there are fewer trees and bushes to help prevent floods. So mud, tree limbs, and garbage are flowing like rivers, sweeping across busy roads, and they've wiped several homes off their foundations. This area is no stranger to mudslides. An official from the National Weather Service says they can be caused by a rainfall rate of a ½ inch per hour. On Tuesday, some parts of Southern California got more than 3 times that in an hour. That's led authorities to give evacuation warnings or orders to tens of thousands of people. One of the alerts from officials in Santa Barbara County said simply, leave debris flow areas now. Go to high ground. A resident named Benjamin Hyatt, who sent CNN these pictures, said that 2 to 3 feet of mud surrounded his house in an instant, like a dam breaking. Officials say at least 5 people have been killed in these storms, and last night more rain was expected, worsening fears of flooding.
In the U.S., flash floods kill more people than tornadoes, hurricanes, or lightning. A flash flood creates a rush of moving water that can sweep a grown man off his feet, a car off the road, and even your entire home off its foundation. When the ground becomes so saturated that water can no longer seep into the soil, it begins to run off quickly into rivers and streams, and this causes a rise in water and a flash. Densely populated areas have an extremely high risk of flash flooding, with the additional concrete and less grassy areas for the water to soak into the soil, and they can see flash flooding very quickly. In mountainous terrain, the combination of gravity plus the easy runoff can lead to catastrophic flooding when all of that water is funneled into rivers, creeks, and even the valleys. Remember, flash flooding can happen in the blink of an eye. That's why it's important to stay alert and pay attention in case a flash flood watch or warning is issued for your area.
While parts of the U.S. East Coast recently endured record-breaking cold thanks to the bomb cyclone we told you about last week, Sydney, Australia, the nation's most populated city, recently sweltered under abnormally high temperatures. 47.3 degrees Celsius, which converts to more than 117 degrees Fahrenheit. It led to warnings about everything from dehydration and sun exposure to dangers about potential fires. It's not quite a record in the Australian city. That was set in 1939 when temperatures were about 1 degree higher. But when they dropped on Monday to what was called a colder 33 degrees Celsius or 91 degrees Fahrenheit, that was characterized as a relief. So far today, we've discussed fires, floods, mudslides, and blasts of cold and hot weather. These things are usually taken into account when people build new homes or developers plan communities. There's a tremendous list of options for building materials: wood and steel, types of flooring and climate control, levels of insulation, and there are pros and cons to everything. Next, we're featuring some materials that could surround us in homes of the future.
Our homes of the future may not look different, but how they're built may be completely new. Building materials are getting a makeover, and companies are rethinking how homes are designed.
So right now, we are essentially in the penthouse. Why isn't this a fancy apartment?
For Biomason, innovation means redesigning one of construction's most popular materials.
You're actually trying to then grow the cement, right?
That's right.
How do you actually do that?
We take bacteria and we put it in our aggregate and grows around each grain of aggregate as cement components. It literally is just using the same organisms that are already doing things similar in a marine environment. Exactly.
Right. Building the homes of the future may mean planning for catastrophes. Hurricane Sandy devastated New York in 2012. A few weeks later, JDS Development started planning their newest high-rise.
When we started designing this building right after Hurricane Sandy, we were working with a group of 50 or 60 people that had all just lived through the problem. And so we went around the room and we said, what happened to you?
They designed flood-proofing measures below the building and installed a fleet of generators where the penthouse would be.
But most buildings, at least in Manhattan, don't do this.
No, nobody does this. The notion that you can't leave, or that you shouldn't leave, or that it's safer in your building than outside is a relatively new concept.
Natural gas-powered generators means that residents will have power, even if the rest of Manhattan is in the dark. In the future, smart tech won't be limited to inside your home. How we're building is changing, even if you can't see it.
So those are some possible future materials. What about the stuff that'll go into future homes, specifically the technology? That's what CES is all about, the Consumer Electronics Show. It's an annual trade show where technological innovations play the starring role. It's been going on for more than half a century, and this year's event is being held in Las Vegas, Nevada, where almost 4,000 companies are exhibiting their work for the more than 170,000 people in attendance. Not all of the ideas presented here take off, but they do give us an idea of where manufacturers think technology is headed.
The top trends that we're seeing out here this year, #1, voice assistants. Whether it's Amazon's Alexa or Google's voice assistant, it seems like every piece of technology here wants to integrate so that they can just have you speaking to control their devices. Also, cities planning for a future with fewer drivers. That doesn't just mean driverless cars. It means that cities are looking for ways so the stoplights can know that there's an accident right there, communicate to your self-driving Uber car that there's an accident there and that they need to go a different direction. So a big ecosystem for the cars and cities to function together. And plus, sports tech going pro. What does that mean exactly? Well, we've seen a lot of wearables come and go, but now a lot of companies are looking to get very specific, not just the macro market, but a lot of times micro markets, just for athletes, just for the elderly. Now, every year at CES, there's so much about television. Some years they lead us astray. 3D televisions, remember that? Well, when was the last time you saw somebody with 3D glasses? Then there were curved televisions, but who needs that when you have a television that you can roll up like a yoga mat? Though I don't think you'll be taking this one to a yoga class. LG Display has this prototype, and it is just a prototype, so no price tag right now. They just make screens. They're hoping that one day the actual TV set manufacturers might integrate this technology so you can have a TV that can just roll up and disappear out of the way in your house, but it doesn't ever really disappear since there's that box right there where it sits. LG thinks that maybe you want to see your television at different heights so you can see what music is playing or the weather at that smaller height. Then maybe it goes up, but not so tall, so you have a wider format like we're used to in movie theaters, or maybe just going all the way up and using your television the way we're all accustomed to using it now. 16:9 just to watch TV shows. Imagine that.
Cheesesteaks can help people grow in a number of ways. They can also serve as an entertaining measuring tool. A father in Philadelphia once noticed that his dinner was about the same length as his infant son. So he started tracking his baby's growth in relation to the length of a cheesesteak. This has gone on for 2 years, and the boy has significantly outgrown both the size of the steaks and having his picture taken with them. After all, his name is Lucas, not Hoagie, and maybe he's getting tired of being sandwiched between the camera and mealtime or jokes about where's the beef. Maybe he's a budding vegetarian, or maybe he just thinks this whole idea is cheesy, even though it's clearly not a missed steak. I'm Carl Azus for CNN 10.